This is Jonathan Ferguson, the Keeper of Firearms and Artillery at the Royal Armouries Museum in the UK, which houses a collection of thousands of iconic weapons from throughout history. And on this week's episode, Jonathan is taking a look at even more of the weapons found in the multiplayer of 2022's Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2.
So that round you can see at the back as he theatrically spins this in the air, which seems like a really silly idea. If you drop it, you're in trouble, because this thing will probably unspool and vomit cartridges all over the floor.
Make sure to subscribe, as we've got 2 previous episodes that take a look at more of Modern Warfare 2's multiplayer guns. And if you'd like to help out the Royal Armouries Museum and continue to support Jonathan's work, check out the links in the description of this video. Right, let's take a look at more of the weapons of Modern Warfare 2.
The gun here is what is now the XM250, and looks very likely, with its very high pressure, high performance 6.8mm round, to replace certainly the M249, hence the name, they rolled it up by one, but also very likely the M240 as well. This thing, no reason why this thing can't do both. Now, that has happened between Modern Warfare's 1 and 2, and this looks to be the same. It's probably had a graphics upgrade, but it seems to be the same design as the one from Modern Warfare 2019, which means that they have carried over prototype design features that have since been abandoned. Have a look at the images, you can see the contours of the receivers are different, the handguard's different, buttstock is different, as well as some of the changes they had made to the original prototype design that make it more a COD gun, slightly different in detail. Notably, the lower forward part of the gun, the low receiver at the front, is shaped very differently to either the prototype or the current gun. So it's become quite far removed from what has actually seen adoption. This is clearly very cut down. We have got examples of sawn-off shotguns. I don't have one to hand. It's very satisfying. The reload sounds and looks really cool. It's maybe a little bit aggressive in the breaking of itself. Normally you have to manually break a shotgun. You don't usually get to just flick a catch and it breaks itself like that. I do appreciate that slick reload there. That looks plausible. It looks like a column of 2 cartridges from a sort of speed belt, like they use in competition shotgun shooting. So you're grasping both rounds in one hand and then dropping one in using pressure of the one above, and then the second one in, closing it up. If you had to speed reload a sawn-off over and under shotgun, then that seems like how you might do it. Something called an HCR 56. So I have a gunsmith view in front of me of it. The closest thing we've got is this, Steyr AUG. This is a vintage piece, as some of our stuff is, because we're a museum, but it's roughly the same configuration. Obviously, because with a support weapon, you want a little bit more effective rate of fire by means of a larger magazine, but you are limited to that box magazine, which is why the game version has that sort of, I think, Magpul-esque drum magazine that comes with it. So it lets you use it for longer in the game, albeit in a Call of Duty game, you're not really using it for its intended purpose of giving support fire. Well, I suppose you can try. I don't think many players online are going to be doing that. Maybe I'm just old and cynical. The lower receiver is essentially this first generation Steyr design with the usual modern Call of Duty tweaks. The elephant in the room is the foregrip, because I'm not aware of an AUG lower receiver that replaces the folding vertical foregrip it's actually attached to the barrel, not even the upper receiver, that replaces that with something fitted to the lower. Suffice to say, this is a fictionalized version of the gun. There are a couple of minor details as well that don't really match. Right, next one, PP-19 Bizon. But this is the original, well, not the very early type, before they did away with this nonsense. Because this helical magazine design has never seemingly worked out. Now, what's interesting here is how identical the design of the magazine appears to be to the model of the one in game, given what we keep speculating on with regards to different designs in the game. So for those of you who aren't aware, this is, it's not obvious from how it works in the game, this is a spiral, as in helical, hence helical, it's a feed, and your bullet emerges, or a cartridge, sorry, emerges here. This is a follower. So that round you can see at the back as he theatrically spins this in the air, which seems like a really silly idea, because if you drop it, you're in trouble, because this thing will probably unspool and vomit cartridges all over the floor. But I digress. Arrangement is as depicted. Hooks at the front, which are steel inserts into the polymer to hook it onto the gun, like so. Now I think the way that is depicted on here is the same. This at the end is your wind-up mechanism. Hopefully you can see. I'll turn it part way and let it go, just so you get the idea. A clockwork magazine. It has to be in order to function. So that applies rearward pressure to the column of cartridges, which spiral down to the bottom and are forced out of the hole here. You can see one on screen, held by the feed lips of the magazine. Right, I will try to set aside my absolute burning hatred of the modified front sights on all of the Heckler & Koch weapons in this game, except I failed to, clearly, and focus on the positives, which is that, well, we've got this, which is very cool. This is an HK33. That means it's in 5.56mm, which is what this is. Although it does, the model, as seen in the initial screen there, lacks the magazine release. Can't quite see that the player is therefore using the push button magazine release here, which is very awkward, and I don't know of anyone that uses them on any HK weapons, because I've got quite long fingers and I can barely reach it. Now this isn't clearly identical to the one in the game, but pretty similar, including this rather interesting olive drab colour for the grip frame for the low receiver effectively, and indeed the buttstock. So if this was a solid stock version, it would look quite similar to what we see here. But the solid stock, there's no HK solid stock that I know of that's so contoured and sculpted. That's a fictional bit of furniture. Clearly the other reason I grabbed this is it does in fact have a grenade launcher on it. Not too dissimilar from what's depicted there. But overall, it's a very sort of cool looking, maybe a bit more Black Ops Cold War than Modern Warfare, but then so is the version that's in front of me, I think. This thing looks like, closest thing that looks like is the SA-25, which is I believe, third generation man-pads, man-portable air defense system. Guided missile, basically. We don't have one of those. We don't specialize at all in guided missile systems here, but we do have one. This is the SA-7. So this is the granddaddy to the SA-25. It has a lot of the same features. There's a thermal battery up front here, a fiberglass tube, illuminated fold down sights on it, and the sighting system on it's probably one of the major leaps forward with later air defense missile systems. It has the what's called the grip stock firing module with electronics in the back here and the grip and trigger up front. Part of the grip stock on this version anyway is a bit of a comedy speaker in the side, because you do need that launch lock-on tone. I don't think it wouldn't sound like that necessarily on this or even on the modern version, but you do need to be able to hear that tone near your head nice and clearly to be able to know when the seeker on the missile, not on the launcher, is locked on. Modern systems are more sort of all aspect, and they can pick up on lower amounts of heat. Whether they'd be good enough to be able to lock on to a vehicle on the ground and fire and successfully engage that, I genuinely don't know. As far as I know, you also can't bypass the lock-on, the guidance system and fire these things without a lock-on, as we see in the gameplay footage. Pretty sure you can't do that. There wouldn't be a lot of point. Firing a missile blind into the air is completely pointless. That looks to be effectively a different gun, although I imagine it unlocks as part of the X13, is it? The Glock 18 assuming pistols work as platforms, which I haven't seen, but then it would be, as in reality, a sort of upgrade for a pistol, fully automatic pistol in this case. What does it give you? Well, a buttstock, make you more precise with it, or to control fully automatic fire better. That's the real advantage of a chassis kit like this, like the Roni or the FAB Defence. I think this looks a bit more like the latter than that, but it's probably an original-ish design. You can see the pistol bit sticking out the bottom, and it's coupled there with a drum magazine. And those three things make for quite a bit of firepower in a compact sort of package. But it's a sort of, why would you bother? If you are a special operations person, you would buy a small submachine gun or a machine pistol. So they're not without value, certainly, but there are better ways to achieve automatic pistol caliber fire than a conversion kit that's really geared more towards civilians for semi-automatic use. I think it's fair to say. Right, a quite specific model of RPK, which is one of the only guns in the game to have its actual name, interestingly. Now, the graphics on this game are obviously superb. I haven't really commented too much on how well things are modeled or textured, focused more on how different they are from their real-life counterparts. Suffice it to say, the graphics are superb, lighting, texturing, the lot. And this RPK is no exception. Something we've had comments on before is the fidelity of wood in game engines, in graphics engines. And to be fair, it has been sort of glossed over, slap a shiny texture on there to imply varnish. The resolution isn't necessarily superb. Wood has so much texture to it that a flat wrapped around texture does not do it justice. You almost ideally would need to model in 3D the grain and then texture that. I don't think we're doing that yet. Correct me if I'm wrong, game developers. But I'm going to go out on a limb and say that the wooden furniture on this RPK is probably the best I've seen. It has a variety of texture, of wear, of colour, of sheen. It looks about as good as I would expect wood to look. So in our single player review, I commented on the FN SCAR alike, which is in the game as well. This is a part of the same platform, and it shares all of the same differences and somewhat similarities of the not SCAR that we saw last time. This, though, is a different model, effectively. This is a precision rifle, or DMR, and it's somewhat close to the FN SCAR Mark 20. So that's the US military designation for a designated marksman version of the SCAR, which is the Mark 17. They all, I think I'm right in saying, have that monolithic upper receiver that extends past the gas block where the fold-up sight would be, and has a window in either side for you to reach in and adjust your gas setting. And if the gun is not running properly because dirt or whatever, you change the gas setting. So you need those big rectangular windows in the body of the gun, effectively, to access that. Here we have a handguard that sort of stops short of the gas block like the Mark 17 would, but then it has an extension that runs out past the gas block at a lower height, curiously. And the whole point of monolithic uppers or even pseudo-monolithic ones with separate handguards, is that they present a flat top all the way down the barrel as far as you need it for your accessories and stuff. And this doesn't do that, so it gives it quite a different profile. This thing has quite an interesting optical sight setup here. Obviously that's customizable, but it is interesting to look at. We're used to the hybrid arrangement for sights. Appeared in Call of Duty some years ago. It's a real thing. You either press a button and flip the thing out of the way, or you just, it's on a sort of biased cantilever mount and it swings it out of the way. This is somehow actuating it to go up into your sight line and down into a stowed position below your sight. I haven't seen that done in the real world. If anyone has, let me know. It seems mechanically difficult to achieve. I mean, you wouldn't have to worry too much about zero precision of it moving around too much and losing your aim, essentially, because it's just, in theory, it's just a magnifier. This also has a thermal function as well. Now, as I only recently learned, a pane of glass will prevent a thermal imager from seeing through it. It's like a wall. So if the optic has a glass plate, screen, that would be a problem. Maybe this one is polymer or something. I don't know if that would have the same effect. I'm not very good on thermal properties of things. It did stick out to me as an interesting setup there, and I'm not sure how realistic it is. Thank you for watching, everyone. That was, of course, more guns from Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. As ever, you can help us out greatly here at the Royal Armouries by checking out our own YouTube channel, and of course by visiting us if you're at all able to do so. Obviously, if you're thousands of miles away, that's a bit of a problem. But if you're here on vacation or something, we have 3 museums around the country that you can hopefully make it to one of them. Thanks again, guys. We'll see you next time.